Hi there and welcome to another video from Hegarty Maths. It's Mr. Hegarty here, and in this video we're going to simplify algebraic fractions that involve quadratics. So let's start by thinking about what we already know. I'd like you to pause the video and double check you can simplify that fraction and that algebraic fraction. I'll show you the answer in a few seconds. Okay, hopefully you got the following. And what you needed to do is you needed to work out the highest common factor of 8 and 12, and it was 4. If you wrote 8 as 4 multiplied by 2 and 12 as 4 multiplied by 3, you can divide the top and bottom by 4 or cancel that common factor of 4, and you get 2/3. Similarly here, first step is to factorize the top and factorize the bottom, factorize the numerator and denominator. They both have a common factor of 2, which you can divide top and bottom by 2 or cancel the 2, and you get 3x add 2 over y. And that skill we're going to be using a lot in this video. So to simplify fractions, factorize the top and the bottom and cancel common factors. We're going to need that. Okay, next you're going to need to be able to remember how to multiply and divide fractions. So here's two questions for you. Pause the video, make sure you can do those. And hopefully you got the following answers: a quarter and 4. And the basic method here is to look for common factors when you're multiplying before you go on and do numerator times numerator divided by denominator times denominator, and do the various cancelling you can before you actually do that product. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, and again, before you actually do the multiplication, you look for common factors which you can cancel. Now, you really have to be super good at those, otherwise there's no real point working through this video, so make sure those building blocks are secure and you can do this before looking forward. The last thing we need is to be able to factorize some basic algebraic expressions involving quadratics. Pause the video, double check you can factorize the following two quadratic expressions. Well, hopefully you got these answers. 2x bracket x add 8, and the other one was x add 2 with a bracket around it multiplied by x add 6. In the first case we took out a common factor of 2 from the 2 and the 16. In the second case we took out a common factor of x that was in x squared and x. So we took out a factor of 2x and then had our bracket. Here we were looking for two numbers that multiplied to 12 and added to 8. Product of 12 and sum of 8. They were 2 and 6, so our brackets were x add 2, x add 6. Right, we are now ready for what we need to do in this particular skill. Let's have a go at some questions. Okay, we're asked to simplify this algebraic fraction that has a quadratic on the top and a quadratic on the bottom, the denominator. What we did with numbers is we factorized the top and the bottom of the fraction and then cancelled common factors. So let's do that here. Let's factorize this, which we should know factorizes as 2x, x add 5, and that's going to be over the bottom factorized. We're looking for two numbers that add to 8 and multiply to 15. They're going to be x add 3, x add 5. Now when you do this, this is where the simplification comes in. There's a factor of x add 5 on the numerator and on the denominator, so you can cancel those factors, or think of it dividing the top and bottom by x add 5, and we're going to get ourselves the answer 2x over x add 3. We can drop the brackets over the x add 3 here. We don't need them anymore. It's fine to leave it like that, which is much simpler than what we started with, and we're done. So that's what we're going to do throughout the course of this video. Factorize the numerator and denominator, cancel common factors. So at this stage, each time, pause the video, try yourself. Here's another. Pause, have a go. Okay, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to negative 1 when I'm factorizing this, and they're going to be x subtract 6, x add 5. So there we go. Step 1. I have factorized the numerator. Let's factorize the denominator. That's going to factorize as x subtract 6, x subtract 1. Negative 6 multiplied by negative 1 is positive 6. Negative 6 add negative 1 gives me negative 7x there. And oh look, we've got a common factor of x subtract 6, which we can cancel or divide from the numerator and denominator, and we are just left with x add 5, you don't need the brackets around it anymore, divided by x subtract 1. And there we go. Let's have a go at another one. Pause, have a go. As always, factorize the numerator and denominator. two numbers that multiply to negative 35 and add to positive 2. That's going to be x add 7, x subtract 5. The bottom, how would we factorize the denominator here? You should be screaming out at the screen, that's a difference of two squares. Okay, so that factorizes as x add 5, x subtract 5. And oh look, the factor of x subtract 5 is on the numerator and denominator, and we can cancel it, and we are left with the answer x add 7, no need for the brackets anymore, over x add 5. There we go. Next one. Pause and see if you can do this one yourself. Okay, do you remember when I multiplied normal fractions, not algebraic fractions, but fractions with just involving numbers? I first looked for common factors, and that's what we're going to do here. And before we do that, let's make sure we factorize everything we have. This numerator, this denominator, this numerator, this denominator. Let's give that a go. So I'm going to go down to a new line. I'm factorizing this as x add 2 divided by, again you should be screaming out that that is a difference of two squares, x add 4, x subtract 4. Done no cancelling yet, I'm just factorizing. Multiplied by, because there was a multiplied there, x add 4, okay, put a bracket around that just now, divided by, this here factorizes as x subtract 5. Now before we go ahead and multiply, let's look for common factors on the numerators and denominators. We know when we multiply, we're multiplying numerators and denominators, so any factor here will end up on the overall answer. Well, there's an x here, which will eventually cancel with that x there, so we can cancel it. There's an x add 4 here, which is going to cancel with this x add 4 on the top. And what are we left with, therefore, just on the numerator, the top? Well, we're left with x add 2, don't need the brackets anymore, that's all there is there. And on the bottom, we're left with x subtract 4, x subtract 5. We're going to need the brackets there because these two things are still multiplying together. Don't times those out, it's absolutely fine to leave it like this, and so you should. There's no need to times those out, and that would be our simplified answer for this. Last question, we're going to do a divide. Pause the video and have a go at that one. Obviously, step one, before you do anything, is to try and factorize everything. So let's factorize this. This would factorize as 3x, x subtract 2, divided by, and you should be screaming at the screen here, a difference of two squares, x subtract 3, x add 3. Now, keep the divide there just for now. Let's factorize the top into x add 7, x subtract 2. And this denominator here, we're just going to put a bracket around the x add 3. Now we should know that dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So now it's time to just change that to a multiply sign and flip this fraction over. So this would be 3x, x subtract 2, divided by x subtract 3, x add 3. Change that to a multiply. Flip this fraction so we have its reciprocal. Okay, and we're nearly there now. We're going to start hopefully to see things that we can cancel. Can we see them? Well, there's an x subtract 2 on the top and on the bottom. They are going to cancel. There's an x add 3 on the denominator here and up here, so they're going to cancel. And what are we going to be left with? Well, this 3x is going to remain on the numerator, and on the denominator we're going to have ourselves that x subtract 3 multiplied by the x add 7, which we're going to keep in brackets. So x subtract 3, x add 7, and we're done. We're simplified. And that's it for this particular video. Thanks for watching.